Hello, my name is David Quall. This is my presentation for the final project for ICS 482, um, and I'm going to demonstrate my home pen testing lab. I've got it up on the screen here. As you can see, for a hypervisor, I've chose Oracle's VM VirtualBox Manager. It's a product I've used before in another class, so I was familiar with it. That's really the main reason I chose it. You'll see I have about 4 VMs installed here. 3 of them are running. I have the 2 Windows 2016 servers. The first one that I added was the core version, so that doesn't have a GUI, which is fine, to be honest with you. But if you're going to do stuff like install OpenSSH, it's a lot better to have the GUI. Otherwise, you have to use like a USB stick to install the applications. So I did. Even the GUI is a lot more, eats up a lot more resources, the Windows version, than especially than the core or any of the Linux versions that I have, or VMs that I have running. But I'm going to get started by showing you that the machines are networked. So I'm just going to pop these up. I'll start with the 2 Linux servers. Here I have my Kali Linux distribution and my Ubuntu server. And there's really there's a lot of different ways you can install these VMs. For the Windows versions, you can get an ISO from a Windows evaluation copy. That's what I did for Server 2016. For the Linux machines, there's a site called OS Boxes, and you can get the OVA files and just import the appliance, and you're up and running pretty quickly that way. So here I'm going to, and as far as networking, there are a couple different ways to network these machines. If you go into settings and you can go to the network adapter, I've used a bridge connection. That way they're on the same network as my host. They're just using my host network. You can also set up an internal network. It's a little harder to get the host involved there. Or you can do a NAT, and then you can use port forwarding to get the host to communicate. But I chose the bridged option. Again, I'll pull these VMs up. So for the Ubuntu server, if I do an ifconfig, it's going to show an IP address of 10.1.10.130. I'll get a terminal going in the Kali Linux machine and do the same command. And you'll see here I've got a 10.1.10.124. So I'm just going to ping the Ubuntu server from here. Oops. And you'll see I'm getting a reply from there. I'll do the same thing from the Ubuntu server. I'll ping the Kali server. And you'll see I get a reply from there. I'm just going to show quick my Windows Server 2016. If I open a command prompt here, you'll see I'll do the ipconfig command, and you'll see I've got a 10.1.10.157. I can ping that. From here, I can ping that from my Kali machine. And then I can ping the other machines from here as well. And you see, so we're all networked and connected. I'm going to shut down the Windows machine because it tends to hog a lot of resources. That's one of the things I had to tinker around with in the settings is when you set these up, how much base memory you want to give them. If you want to give them 1 or 2 cores, all those settings can affect your performance. The next thing I want to demonstrate is the SSH. So you can see here's my Ubuntu server. I've set up OpenSSH on all machines, and I can SSH. You see the username down here, DQ, and then the IP address should give me a login prompt or password prompt. There we go. And you can see I'm into the Ubuntu server. So just gonna go out of there. Gonna minimize this and focus on the Kali distribution. Oops. And talk a little bit about a good pen testing tool. The tool that I chose was Nmap, and I chose it basically because I think it's a pretty powerful tool. It can be used in different capacities. Network administrators can use it to map out their network. It's obviously a great penetration testing tool. It can tell you, it can really tell you a lot about the network and the hosts that you're scanning. You can scan a single IP. You can scan a range of IPs, a whole subnet. You can scan using different protocols, TCP scan. You'd use the Nmap minus lowercase s capital T flag. You can scan for UDP ports using the minus lowercase s capital U flag. You can scan selected ports and ignore discovery with a minus capital P lowercase n flag. You can use it for OS and services detection, standard services detection, aggressive services detection. So you can do a lot with it. You can output your scans in XML file, CSV file. There's different options there. So I'm just gonna, I'm gonna go and find the program here. Should be under our vulnerability analysis tools. I'm gonna launch it. And I think I'll just do a simple scan of, I don't want to get too wild on the network, but maybe I'll just scan my Ubuntu server and see what we get. So that's a single IP. And I'll launch that. And what you'll see is that it scanned that IP. The host is up. 1,000 ports, scanned, 999 closed. And the only open port I have is 22, which I set up for the SSH connection. So that's my presentation of my pen testing lab. It was a lot of fun. It was a great semester. I learned a lot about these VMs. I actually ran into some trouble installing the Windows VM. Well, first I had trouble installing the hypervisor. I had to enable virtualization on my laptop, and then I had trouble installing Windows. It took me a couple of tries, and I had to poke around to find out how to get that thing to install correctly. Didn't have a lot of luck with the 2019 version. And I think there's some Hyper-V stuff on my laptop. I think my laptop's not equipped for that, so it's not a great machine. It's only got 12 gigabytes of RAM, and it's got an i5 processor. But it was a great semester. Thanks. This was my presentation of my pen testing lab.